In this video, I will show you an automation that will automatically create news articles using make.com. So all you'll have to do is list the websites that generate content that is of interest to your audience. Then we'll quickly create RSS feeds for those websites, and then the automation will take care of the rest. The end result will be highly relevant, fully formatted news posts on your website that you can then edit and publish. By the way, if you want access to the make.com blueprints so you can just quickly import them at the click of a button, then check out the link in the description to our community where you'll get access to all of our templates, including this one. To get started, here's a bird's eye view of the end-to-end flow. Step 1 is we need to list the websites that publish relevant content for our audience. In this video, I'll be creating news articles for a home security blog, focusing on new products and feature releases from the main home security brands that you see on screen. Step 2 will be using an RSS platform to very quickly turn those websites into RSS feeds that our automation can use. While that might sound complicated, this RSS platform is incredibly easy to use to generate feeds from any type of website. Step 3, we then use a no-code automation platform, make.com, to process those articles as they're published. The superpower of this automation is that the AI automatically filters out irrelevant articles and then creates highly relevant draft articles using GPT-4 and also generates images using DALL-E 3. Finally, in step 4, your draft articles will then appear on WordPress where they can be further edited and published to your audience. Great, let's get into it. So firstly, we'll need to curate a list of websites that create content that would be relevant to your audience. In my case of security cameras, here are the main brands that we need to focus on. These are the primary sources of information for new products and product feature releases. So I've created this list of URLs where interesting content is published that we want to use. As you can see from the URLs, we're not just linking to the home pages of those websites. We're finding the exact pages where the content is published. Let's jump into one. For ring.com, this products and innovation section of their blog details all of the new products to be released, as well as new features. For Blink, which is owned by Amazon, they have a press release archive section where any relevant releases about Blink cameras will appear here. This is where the filtering mechanism is crucially important because there will be other non-Blink related news items that we will want to filter out at this stage. So with this list of URLs, we now need to create these RSS feeds to be consumed by the automation. For that, we use this great system called RSS app, which allows you to turn any website into an RSS feed. The great thing about this is there's absolutely no coding required. So once you've created an account, to set up a feed, you click on New Feed on the top right, and then you have two options. You can either let the system try to generate the feed automatically, or you can help the system along by building out the feed. So the fastest way is to just let the system build out the feed itself. So let's drop in our first URL, and then you click Generate, and then as you can see, the feed has been created. Now it is always best to double check this against the URL. So let's click into the URL here, and yeah, you can see you've got 12 news items showing, and that is reflected in those 12. So then you can save that feed and then move on to the next one. That's how easy it is to create the feeds using the RSS generator. I'll give you an example where you'll need to use the RSS builder. So in this case for Wise, the RSS generator picks up more than just the news items we need. So as you can see, it's picking up the Wise Cam floodlight, the doorbell, the Cam Pro. These aren't news items. So really what we want to be doing is picking up these news items here and only those news items. Ah yes, there's the floodlight and the doorbell. So in that case, we want to come back here and then use the RSS builder. Then that loads the website within the frame, and then it's simply a case of clicking on the link, and then you can see the links show up on the right hand side, and then you click Generate. And now only the news items are showing, which is brilliant. And again, that was very simple. So we just say feed and move on to the next one. So as you can see, it's very easy to create 10, 20, 30 different feeds. And then the next stage is we need to group all of those into a single bundle that then can be consumed by our automation. For that, we click Bundles, and you'll be clicking the Add Bundle here. And then you can just select all of the feeds that you want to include in that bundle. I've already done that, which is here, and you can see that the bundle is ready. And this aggregates all of the news items from all of the feeds into a single date-ordered field. So the newest items will show on the top, and those will be the ones that will be triggering the automation. So the key thing that you need once you have your bundle set up is you need to copy out this XML file, and then you need to paste that into the automation. So let's move on to the next stage, which is to create the automation on make.com. And just so you know, links for all of these apps will be in the description below. So here's a quick look at our full automation. What we're going to do though is we're going to build this up step by step, and I'll be able to explain each step very clearly. If you'd rather not build it up step by step, you can always download the full blueprint in our community. Great, so I've set up a new scenario here. and we need to add our first node. So we have our RSS bundle ready. So we need an RSS module, and we need this module to watch the RSS feed looking for new items. So we'll click this watch RSS feeds item. And then that XML URL that you copied out from the RSS app, you can paste in here. Then you can set the maximum number of returned items. I'll just set this to 5 for the moment. Click OK, and then you can choose where to start. Once this is fully up and running, you can click from now on. So any new items will be processed. So the next step on this flow is once a new news item appears in the feed, we need to fetch the text for that news item. There are 2 ways to do this. The first is using the HTTP get a file, and from here you can drop in the URL from the RSS item. There are a couple of issues with this approach. Number 1, it fetches the entire HTML of the page, so there's a lot of noise coming through. And the second is it doesn't really handle JavaScript frontends very well. So instead of this approach, I prefer to use a simple web scraping platform that you can connect on make.com. There are a few available, so we'll delete this module. And then if you search, let's say, for Scrape, there's Scrape Ninja, there's Scrape.to, there's Scraping Bee. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. For this video, I use Scrape.to because it's the simplest of the lot. And once you click Scrape.to, what we're going to do is we're going to scrape the website text. So you can click that. To get started, you will then need to go to the Scrape.to website, and you will need to create an account. The link to Scrape.to is in the description below. The pricing is available on their site, but as you can see, there is a free tier that covers 30 requests. And it's pretty cheap then after that. So $3 a month should cover a lot of use cases. So once signed up and logged in, you can then create an API key that you can then bring into make.com. And there's an example. So with the API key added here, the connection is complete. And then you could just drop in the URL from the RSS item for the website to scrape. There are 2 options here on response format. There's joined and separated. For the purposes of this, I think joined works perfectly fine. So click that. And then we can test this out. So if you click run once, click on 1, this will happen because there are no new news items in the feed, but you can get it to just select the first item for testing purposes. So we'll just select this one, and then we click run once again, and now you can see this is the news item that was in the feed, and then this is the output from the scrape. And this is all of the text that's on the page that we can then work with. Okay, next step. We now want to create our AI filtering mechanism. This will make sure that we're only picking relevant news items to create drafts from. For this, we're going to use OpenAI's GPT-4o. So we'll add another module here, and there's OpenAI, and we're going to create a completion. Again, you need to create an API key and add it in here. That's not covered in this video, but I'll provide a link in the description on how to do that if you're not sure. I have my connection created and selected. So then we can select a model. So we're going to use GPT-4o, which is the latest version. And then we need to add in messages. So the first thing we need to do is add in a system message. And this can provide detailed instructions for the large language model to follow when we provide in the text. So I'll copy in the text here and let's talk through it. So the first thing I'm saying is you are the chief editor of a security camera online publication. So of course you can edit this to suit your own use case. Secondly, you will be presented with a news article and its URL. Your task is to determine if the news story is highly relevant to the following persona. So this is how we're getting this filtering mechanism to really work. We're defining who the reader is, and then we're asking GPT-4o to use its reasoning capabilities to determine whether this article is actually relevant for this persona. So the persona here, a time-poor person who uses or is interested in using security cameras for personal and professional use. They're only interested in use that directly impacts their job or their life. So I've iterated over a number of different prompts and personas, and this is the best that I came up with. So then we want the LLM to output a JSON with keys as follows. This might sound complicated, but really what we're saying to the large language model is we want a structured output that we can reliably use in our automation. So the first part of that structured output is a relevance ranking. We want it to pick a number between 0 and 10, where 0 is not relevant and 10 is extremely relevant. So we wanted to give it a rating. The second then is we want it to provide a rationale for that ranking. So this lets it explain why it's made that decision. And then thirdly, we wanted to provide a new title, and this we're going to use further on in the automation. So we wanted to create a unique article title that reflects the content of the article. And it obviously must be different to the title in the existing article. So that's it. It's a simple structure. And then we also need to tell it to only output valid JSON. So from here, then we need to click on Show Advanced Settings. We can change the temperature, which means that the lower the temperature, the more reliable the result is going to be. The higher the temperature, the more creative the result is going to be. So because we want a really well-defined response, we can lower this to, let's say, 0.5. And then finally, under response format, we want to choose JSON object. And again, this will make sure the large language model provides a very structured output. Max tokens is a required field here, which you can set to 0. I forgot to add the user message. So we have the system message here, which is asking GPT-4o to generate that structured response, but we need to actually pass the information. So we'll click add a message, and now this will be a user message to the system. And what we want to do here is we want to pass in 3 different things. So I'll show you this first, and then we'll talk about it. So number 1, we want to pass in the title of the news item. Number 2, we want to pass in the URL. And number 3, we want to pass in the actual article. So it's a good practice to delimit the different types of parameters that you send into the model. That way it can pick up that the title is different to the URL, is different to the content. So here I'm doing it using a series of apostrophes, but this could be anything as long as it's consistent. You know, it'll work like that as well. It's just good practice, and I find that the large language model understands things a lot better when you do it like this. So now that we have the user message set, let's test the system. So we'll click run once again, and we can pick the first item. It'll scrape it again, and now we have an output. So if you click here, you can see the output. Okay, so it's saying the relevance rating here is 9 out of 10. The article discusses a new all-in-one security center that is highly relevant to users interested in enhancing their security camera system. So that's perfect and perfectly reasonable. And then the new title for this item would be Reolink Home Hub, centralized security solution for battery powered cameras now available. So that sounds pretty good. And just so that you're aware, here is the URL that we are basing this off. That's the news item effectively. So this product is now available separately. So what we have is a great response. What we need is to parse this. So what we're getting back here is just a piece of text, and we need to structure this now in JSON. So there's a specific module that you use, which is if you add a new module and click JSON, there's a parse JSON module. And what you can do is drop in this JSON string, which is the result from the chat completion. You don't need to create a data structure, because what's going to happen is make.com is going to auto-generate a data structure off what it receives. So that's perfectly fine. So we'll click OK, and now we need to move to the next step. So now GPT-4o has made a decision as to whether it thinks this article is relevant for your audience. So next we need to generate the article and filter out the irrelevant news items. So let's add another module. We'll go back into our chat completion, and again we'll choose GPT-4o, back to add a message and another system message. So this system message will be all about writing the content. So again, I'll copy it in and let's talk through it step by step. You're an experienced journalist, you are great at writing hard news stories. So I think this is important because this system works very well when it's dealing with factual news items. So hard news style is effectively reporting on factual events that have happened, such as a new product release here or a new feature release. You've been handed a press release and are tasked to write a short, objective, engaging news article. Do not include quotes from people. So what I found with the system is the large language model tends to summarize the content of the article. But when it comes to quotes, it also tends to summarize the topic of what the person said, which obviously doesn't work when you're dealing with a direct quote from someone. So for the moment, I put in do not include quotes from people. There is a way to extract out quotes and then inject them into articles if you really need quotes. But for the sake of simplicity, I've not included that in this system. But let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd like me to delve into further. So next up, the article should focus on relevant information for the target audience who are interested in security cameras. So again, keeping it highly relevant for the readers. Ensure that the reporting is straightforward and free of any marketing fluff. So I think this is important because we're dealing with press releases or official communications from companies in a lot of cases. So they're obviously going to be claiming that these new products and features are the best thing ever, whereas we want to take a more objective tone. Okay, so that's the system message. And now we need to add the user message, which is we need to pass in the article. So like last time, we're going to put in the title, the URL, and the content. So instead of putting in the original news item title, we're going to put in our new title that we just generated. Now, as you can see, the JSON 8 module on the left-hand side here doesn't appear on the right-hand side, so we can't select it to drop in. So to fix that, we need to run the scenario, and then make.com will know what data it's dealing with, so then it can drop in that variable. So we'll just get out of this for the moment. Click OK. Again, we'll put max tokens to 0, which just lets the model determine how long it should be. And then click OK. We'll click Save on the scenario. We don't want to lose anything. And then we'll click Run once. We'll choose the first news item in the feed. OK, it's running. Great, so now you can see it's complete. And if we click back in here now, go back to our user message, we now have our JSON object that we can drop in. And it has extracted out the variables based on the structure. So message content title, we can drop in our new title, and we'll keep this delimiter. We have title, URL, and content, which came from the web scraper, which is there. So we'll click OK. Now, so it's going to generate a news article based off this news item. However, we want to put in a filter because we want to filter out irrelevant results. And as you can see here, this one is highly relevant. It's 9 out of 10. So we need to choose what we deem as relevant. And you can play around with this a little bit. So we're going to say that anything that's 7 or greater, we want to actually create a news item for. So if we X out of that, and we click on this little spanner icon, and we'll set up a filter. And we'll call this filter out irrelevant items. So the condition here is relevance, and the text operator is greater than, and we're saying greater than 7. Actually, we're not filtering out, so this is filter for relevant items. So we're filtering for relevant items, and we're looking at the relevance score, which in the last case was 9. And if that's greater than 7, then it'll continue. If not, it'll just stop there. So let's try this again. We'll run once. And as you can see, the filter worked. So relevance is greater than 7, and relevance being 9. So now you can see that GPT-4 has generated the article. So that's not a bad article. GPT-4 tends to generate quite stiff content that needs to be humanized a little bit. So we're going to drop in another module where we try to edit this article and actually humanize it a little bit. So I'll share the prompt for that now. So we'll come back in here, we'll add another chat completion. So we're going to go back to OpenAI, again GPT-4o, we'll set our system message, and I'll drop in the system message. Okay, so let's talk through this. So you will take the provided text and edit it while preserving the placement of lists and heading. Your writing should be aimed at both novices and seasoned users, offering insights that balance depth with accessibility. The writing should combine technical descriptions with practical advice. Use contractions in your writing. Do not start consecutive sentences or paragraphs with the same word. Keep sentences short. Use an active voice instead of a passive one. Do not start with a welcome. Do not start with a question. So there's a long list here of the way we can improve the writing of this article. So we'll click OK to that. Well, sorry, we need to add the user message. I keep forgetting it. So here's the user message, and I'll just copy this actually from here because it's the same structure, but no, we need to drop in our new item or new content. So we're not looking at what's scraped. We're looking at what was just generated in this node. So we have our result. Great. Again, max token 0. Max tokens can be changed. So max tokens means how many words or sentences should be generated by the model. If you set it to 0, it'll just figure it out itself. If you do want to constrain it, you could set that to 500 or 1,000. Generally speaking, a token represents around 3/4 of a word. So you can do the maths from there to figure out what length of content you want produced. But this only sets a maximum limit. So we'll click OK. Now let's test it out. So click run once. OK, so let's see the result. Yeah, so it definitely reads a little bit better. That prompt can be tweaked to further align the style to your publication as well. So now that we have the article written, our next stage is to generate an image for the article. Generated images don't always work well for news items, but we'll include it in this flow, and then you can pick or choose whether you want to publish it or not. So the first stage to generating an image is we need an image prompt. So surprise, surprise, it's another chat completion. So again, we'll pick 4o, add a message. This system message is going to say, you'll classify the main topic of the provided text and only respond with the topic and no additional explanatory information or introduction information. So what we're trying to do here is to tell DALL-E 3, which is our image generator, what this image should be about in as few of words as possible. We don't need to send the entire article in. So we'll choose the user role, and then we'll say, what is the main topic of the following? And we'll just pick the result, which is the latest version of the article. And we'll click OK. Okay, so that's going to tell us what this image should be about. And we now need to run the prompt to load up the variables into make.com. So if we now click on the output, we can see standalone home hub for enhanced battery camera security. So we can now pass that to DALL-E 3 to generate an image. So next up, add another module. It's the same OpenAI connector, but now we need to generate an image as opposed to create a completion. Generate an image using DALL-E 3. And now we can drop in the prompt. So we want a realistic image of a standalone hub for enhanced security for battery cameras. So that's number 11 result, which is this one. So let's go into show advanced system settings. So you can use these settings, you can tweak them as needed. For size, we're going to go 1792 by 1024. We'll leave quality and style the same, but response format, we're going to use image file. So there's one more stage to this image generation. We need to convert this image to a JPEG, and that can be then uploaded to WordPress. So we'll click on add new module and just type in image, and then you have convert a format. format. So if you click that, and yes, it has picked up the file, which is the OpenAI generated image file, and we want to set the output format to JPEG and click OK. And you can leave it at that because we're going to use that in a couple of minutes to generate the article on WordPress. Now, I forgot one thing with the article, which is we need to format it for HTML. So let's do that next. So add another module, OpenAI. Again, we're going to get the large language model to do this. So we have our connection, the model is 4.0. We'll add the message, which is system, and again, here is the prompt. So we want the system to respond in correct HTML syntax because we'll be programmatically uploading this to WordPress and we want it to be valid HTML. Paragraphs must be in a P tag, headings in a H2, use strong to bold words, use ordered and unordered lists. I think this one is important for me, which is please include a link to the source as a hyperlink. So if readers want to find more information about this news item, they can click through to the source article. And that can either be included at the bottom or it can be included inline in the article. And then I'm also saying here, do not output the article title because that is a separate field on WordPress. Okay, so then add a message. So we want to now provide the URL for the source, but then also the content to work from and the title that has been generated. So here's the article, which is this one. Node 10 is the humanized content, and then we generated the topic. So let's drop in node 10. There's node 10 result. And then we also want to drop in the URL, and that's the very first node. Again, max token 0, because different news items might require more or less text, and we'll click OK. Let's run this now, and let's just see how it works. We'll click run once. Again, select what we want to generate the article from, and off it goes. So it took about 20 seconds to get to the DALL-E 3 image generation. Image generation usually can take a while, but again, 20, 30 seconds is fine. So overall, that was probably less than a minute to generate both the image and the article. So let's have a look at the article. And as you can see, we have HTML tags now and the URL linked to the source. The image is also available here in a JPEG format, but it's not possible to view it yet because it's in binary code. But we'll be able to see that in WordPress in a minute. Excellent. So we now have our article, we now have our image. So let's connect up the WordPress side. We're nearly finished. So first things first, we need to create a media item on WordPress. So we'll click add another module. You need to find WordPress, and there's a few options here. We need to go to media, create a media item. Now I have WordPress connected here already. There is a make.com extension that you need to install on WordPress, which then provides an API key that you can drop in here. I'm not going to go through that process in this video, but Alan has gone step by step through that in one of the other videos on this channel, so I'll drop that in a card up here. So the full settings for this, once you have the connection set, under file, we want to use map and just delete out what's there, because what we want to do is use the data from this format conversion. So you'll see that here, convert to format. And if you click data, now the binary is going to be dropped into the data to generate that image on WordPress. Then in terms of a file name, we're going to use the image topic, which is available in node 11 here for result. But then we're also going to actually put in a timestamp to avoid WordPress overwriting images on the system. So you can just click the created date of that topic and then drop in .jpg, and we can set the topic as the title of the image. So that's that there. So we'll click OK. So we now have the media item created on WordPress. And then finally, we need to create the post on WordPress. So again, click WordPress, create a post, choose the connection. So we need to set a title, content, and a type. So type is post. The title is going to be the new title that we generated ages ago. Let's find it. We'll collapse all. That was here, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh no, it was the JSON. And then the content, this is the HTML formatted humanized content, is this one. And then finally, we're going to set a category. You don't need to do this, but we'll set the category there. And then the featured image, we want to link the media item ID that we have just created. So we can drop that in there. Fantastic. There are other fields that you can update here as needed. Status, we're going to leave as draft because we don't want to auto-publish these because they definitely need editing and fact checking potentially before publishing. Okay, so let's press OK. And that is the end of the flow. So let's test it out. So we'll select this Real Link Home Hub again to generate the article. Click run once, and it's going to go through the full process. And then I have WordPress opened here, and this is the posts for the security cameras category, and there's no posts available. So we'll be able to see the post here once this full automation complete. Okay, it's done. So let's have a look. We'll refresh here. Yes, we now have our draft post. Real Link Home Hub, and then if we click preview, there we go. So again, I mentioned that automatically generated images don't necessarily work well for news items, so a picture of the actual hub would make more sense here. But there may be news items that would work with kind of more general images. And here is the news item. So yeah, short and sweet. It's 4 paragraphs long, reads pretty well, short sentences. I've looked at this article before, so everything does look factually accurate here. And then you can click on the link, and the link looks good. So yeah, that's a perfect starting ground to further edit that article. Maybe carry out additional research, drop in different images, add your own personal kind of twist to it, and click publish. But yeah, absolutely, it's a great starting point. So back to the scenario, I'll just save this so as not to lose it. Always worthwhile. Keep saving it as you go. I've learned the hard way in the past where you can lose a lot of automations without saving them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run this, but instead we'll run it for the entire RSS feed, so all RSS items. Now it is limited to 5 here. If you click on the actual RSS feed, there's probably more than 5, but we'll just pick the top 5 just to see how they all look. So we have 5. We'll click run and select all RSS feed items and then run them all. Let's see how they turn out. Great, so all 5 have completed. And as you can see here, you can see the number 5 on each of the nodes. Now, interestingly, the filter for relevant items may have filtered something out. So let's have a look. Yeah, so it's included the first 4, but it has filtered out the last one. So let's see why here. Go to operation 5. Yeah, so the article is Amazon Prime Day 2024 exclusive deals and discounts. So I think that's a very general article about lots of different products that are not security camera related. So it's given it a relevance of 2 out of 10. The article mainly focuses on Amazon Prime Day deals, which are not directly related to security cameras. So that's a good shout. And that's the real superpower of this automation, because a lot of news feeds might have stuff that's totally irrelevant for your audience. So that's a really good filter check. So yeah, it has generated 4 articles then all the way through. So let's now jump into WordPress and I'll refresh. And here are the additional 4 articles. Okay, so let's preview them. 1, 2, 3, 4. So first up, Arlo Pro 2K and wire-free video doorbell. Yeah, great. Now compatible with Apple Home integration. So that's like a feature release. These products now are compatible with Apple Home, and yeah, some very, very technical information there on which versions are compatible and what to do in terms of firmware updates. That's a really good news article, and if you have an audience of security camera professionals with these products, they will be very interested in that. So, and again, you have your link there to the source. There's some nice images being generated here, but I do think the actual product images will make a lot more sense. This is the next one. Reolink unveils cutting-edge 4K solar security cameras. This looked kind of like a press release, so I think that could definitely be deleted, I think. Let's jump into yeah, it is a press release. So maybe there's a twist on the prompts or a change to the prompts to try to kind of flush that out. Generally speaking, there's going to be a need to edit these articles anyway, so it could just be manually deleted. But otherwise, it does look like a good article. This is the next one. Arlo launches security tag for easy system disarm. Yeah, image definitely doesn't make sense here. It's not even in English. Definitely isn't an Arlo product. Yeah, and if you click through to the article, yeah, it actually does have an image of the product. So definitely some edits needed, but it's a good draft article to work from. And finally, Amazon unveils Blink Moments, seamlessly combines security camera clips into one video. Again, yeah, good article. Click through to the link. Imagery is there and more information. So a solid base to work off for a news item, but a great article for people who have a Blink security camera knowing that this new feature is available. So this type of news automation system can definitely speed up the selection process and the drafting of news items for your publication. As you can see, it's not perfect. It does create decent drafts, but there's still work to do in terms of sourcing better imagery, carrying out additional research. Fact-checking is definitely important, as large language models have a tendency to hallucinate, but it definitely gives you a solid base. A system like this would work very well in industries where there's a continual stream of, let's say, new products or features, as in security cameras, or generally in consumer electronics, but even for other types of publications or blogs. For example, travel blogs, where you could share the news on the locations that you cover, such as travel disruptions, weather updates, events happening in the area. Journalists could use use the system as a starting point to draft articles from the continual feed of press releases that are generated from government agencies, for example. Back in February, it was leaked that Google is paying some independent publishers to test a system very much like this. In the article, it talks about AI publishing tools to help journalists with their work, allowing them to create aggregated content more easily by examining already published content, summarizing it, and publishing it as a new article. But they do talk about how these tools are not intended to replace the essential role of journalists for reporting, creating, and fact-checking articles, and the publishers remain in full editorial control. So it's the same with this system. This provides a solid draft to work from, but then you can take it from there and really build on top of it. I hope you found this video helpful in creating a news automation system. And once again, if you want access to the Make.com blueprints, so you can just quickly import them and have them built out for you, then check out the link in our description to our community, where you'll get access to all of our templates, including this one. Thanks for watching.